I call this meeting to order at 3:08 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, Chair Gish. Aurora Black.
Here.
Kendra Garcia.
Here.
Kathleen Gish.
Here.
Pam Parfit.
Here.
Angelique Montoya Chavez.
I'm present.
Miriam Jahar is here. I don't know if she got on the phone, but I do see her here. I'm going to
She's
mark
present.
her present. Eli Fresquez.
Here, and I'm calling in on my phone. I apologize. And also I'm double booked. I have a presentation I have to do at 4, so I'll have to hop off at least 15 minutes before, so around 3:45. I apologize.
And Chris Pommier.
He's excused.
Chair Gish, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda, and I do have a few amendments to make to the agenda due to the city clerk not responding to publicizing the agenda that is actually uploaded on PrimeGov currently, which would be the corrected version. I need to add items 8B, C, and D, which is 8B is updates for posting the Mayor's Committee on Disability position. 8C is continued discussion of appropriate city placement for the ADA coordinator and Mayor's Committee on Disability. Wait, that's the wrong agenda. Okay, I got the right one. 8B is updates to the vacant Mayor's Committee on Disability position. 8C is continued discussion of updates on the city website features and accessibility. And 8D is the Mayor's Committee on Disability subcommittee reports. And so if we could amend the agenda to include those items, which are published, but not made public.
Move
Maybe
to
have-
amend the agenda as noted.
Thank you.
Maybe
I
get a
second it.
second.
I second it. Kendra,
Kendra, thank you.
you're welcome.
Okay, I will take a vote. Aurora Black.
Yes.
Kendra Garcia.
Yes.
Kathleen Gish.
Yes.
Pam Parfit.
Yes.
Angelique Montoya Chavez.
Yes.
Miriam Jahar. If you could give me a thumbs up possibly, or a yes or a no in the chat. Eli Fresquez.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. So next is approval of the minutes and CART transcript for August 2nd, 2023. And Helona, I had sent you the updates from Aurora that was requested. And so I don't know if you want to list that out, Aurora, just really quickly.
Well,
if you have
it'll
that.
put them in the record, I guess. Okay,
Yeah.
so page 1 of these are all based on just the transcript. Page 1 under others attending, it should be Brian. We know he has a brain, but his name is Brian. Page 13, paragraph 2, the theater is the Lensic, Lensic. Page 14, paragraph 5, the trails are called the Dale, D-A-L-E, Ball, B-A-L-L, trails. Paragraph 7, it's called the Conservation Homestead instead of Conservation Homestead. Okay, and then page 30, paragraph 3, the legislator's name is Peter Wirth, W-I-R-T-H. And then page 38, paragraph 2, it's the Genoveva Chavez Center. That's Genoveva, and then Chavez, C-H-A-V-E-Z. And that's all I had.
Thank you. Are there any other amendments or changes to the minutes? If there are no other changes to the minutes or transcript, may we have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Move to approve the agenda, the minutes as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second, if I'm not first.
Thank you.
Okay. And I will take a roll call vote. Aurora Black,
Yes.
Kendra Garcia,
Yes.
Kathleen Gish,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
Yes.
Miriam Jahar, Eli Fresquez.
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Thank you. Next is public comments. Are there any public comments or any comments on behalf of the public who cannot attend this meeting?
Chair, there are no comments on the website.
Anyone here with public comments? No? Okay. If there are no public comments, then we will move on. There are no presentations, so item 6 presentations, there are none. So next is action items. And 7A, questions for city candidates, current city council candidates, and the November 7th, 2023 election. And I had sent all of you the webpage with all of the city council candidates and also 2 judges who are running for election this election season. And I had asked for questions in order to give to the city council candidates. We could also send them to the judges if that was appropriate. I don't think there's any questions that they would be dealing with, but maybe. If there are, we can identify those and send them to them as well. There are some of you I have not received questions from. If you can get those to me, that would be great. I will be sending you all the compiled list that I have, and maybe that will help you to come up with questions or find questions that aren't being asked. And so, but we do have a decent list. I'm trying to pull it up with not losing all of you. All right, I'm gonna lose all of you if I pull that up. Okay, there it goes. Well, I can't see any of you now, but we have at least 20, probably about 25 questions. Some of them overlap. A lot of them are in the areas of housing, obviously, and things like that. They are very good questions. I do need to edit them a little bit to be like something that you would say to somebody or something that would be more of an answerable question, like what will they do about it? But they are very good questions. And so I will be working on that in the next few days. And maybe Regina, I was thinking you might be able to help me figure out how to coordinate this so that the city council candidates can get it, because I don't have like internal access and I don't know how all that process works. I know how it works from a public forum perspective, but not how it would work without being in a public forum. So, so anyway, we can figure this all out and get these questions as appropriate. The ones that we identify, it's like I said, some of them overlap, so not all of them are going to be asked. Go ahead, Regina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe what we could do is, I think I'm gonna have to use the clerk to help me get this to the candidates. And then maybe we could invite them to a meeting to talk to us. Or I don't know if it's all at a time or one at a time. I don't know if we have time for one at a time. Maybe sometimes I pick like 2 at a time that wouldn't conflict or something like that.
Right.
It's just an idea, but I'll definitely use the city clerk to assist getting access.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, we can figure out the logistics of, it's a lot of people running, so it was a lot. I was thinking, oh wow, that is way more people than I anticipated having to ask. So which is good. It's a lot of engagement with the city. So to me it's very positive, but it's just a lot more to think of than if it was just a handful of people. So so that's the update that I have on that. I want to thank everyone for their questions. A lot of thought obviously went into it, and I really appreciate the feedback and everything that I've received. And hopefully we will have city council candidates know the issues that we are addressing and needing to address. Alona, go ahead.
Yes, we have a suggestion from Gina Maria in the chat, and she
Oh, go ahead.
suggests to do a roundtable.
Okay. I will make a note of that. Yeah, and we have until November, so you know, October we can plan for something to happen big in October if we need. I just know that there's going to be a lot of planning for things like that. So we definitely need to start working on that if we're thinking big in that way of having like a gathering of all of the candidates or as many as possible. So if there are no comments or questions on item 7A, we can move on.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, I was just gonna echo, I really like Gina Maria's idea of having a roundtable.
Yeah.
And maybe it could be a forum where we invite candidates to come meet with the committee and we can ask them these questions. So I really like that idea of
Yeah.
having them, arranging a time for them to meet with us.
Cool. Thank you for that feedback. Gina Maria, you have your hand raised.
I've done them before for different issues that I've worked on, and it was absolutely amazing. There were 8 candidates that attended. None of them did not show up, so that was good. And we had 80 people in a room. And of course, my state representative said, whatever you organize from now on, invite me. I never get my face in front of 80 people. I said, unfortunately for you, you've got it because I organize. So
Yeah,
so
we can definitely get
come
together and
them,
figure
come to
this out.
us.
Yeah, we can definitely get together and figure this out. You
Great.
know, like I said, we have 2 months, you know, to do this. And so I think that, you know, a lot of this, like I said, is mostly awareness on behalf of the city council that who is going to be elected needs to be aware that disabled people are in Santa Fe and we are having some issues that need to be addressed, and they can't, you know, ignore our issues. We are voters, we are active in the city. And so I think that it's really important. And it's also a means of engaging the city itself, the citizenry of the city, and to bring awareness of the issues that we are experiencing here. So I think it will meet a lot of needs if we can make that happen. I just know that it's a lot of logistics to make that happen right now, but I don't think that it can't
It's
happen.
it's not that hard. We got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's-
No, 2 months is enough. So the next item 7B, is Library Disability Pride Month books display and purchasing and planning for 2024 events, awareness and resources. And Angelique, if you want to, I guess I could identify what happened and then we can kind of go into a little discussion on it. So I was very surprised and excited to see that that the public libraries did do posts on Facebook about Disability Pride Month, and more or less, some of it was more ADA, some of it was more just disability awareness, but overall it was disability issues and highlighting books and things like that. There are some areas of improvement that we've identified. And so I actually called Margaret with the library system to ask her because there was just a lack of communication or cross communication occurring. And so I hadn't been to the library in a while. And so we went to check, and me and Angelique checked the south side. I checked the main library and Lafarge because Margaret had stated that there were displays for what she said was Disability Pride Month. It was not quite Disability Pride Month. You can see in the images, one was ADA awareness, which is great, and the other one was I think Disability Independence Day or something like that. But the signs for main library were great. They were visible, they were accessible. The books were, you know, low enough to be accessible to someone using a wheelchair. And the Lafarge library was not easily found. It was an 8.5 by 11 print that had almost no contrast. and it was very hard to read. The display was not clear as to what it was. And it was also like behind several other displays. So there's like, main displays when you first walk in, but then it was kind of in the walkway heading towards like the center of the library. Not very obvious at all. And then Angelique, if you want to talk about the south side, because I didn't go to the south side.
I didn't find anything. I walked around everything. I went to the children's area. I was really disappointed, actually. I think they missed a huge opportunity to not only educate, but to really get the community involved. So I'm hoping that with a gentle nudge, next year will be a better response. I mean, what a great opportunity that we're missing, right? To teach children about their peers, about their siblings, to celebrate even their own differences. I mean, I think we really dropped the ball this time, but I'm hoping that next year will be better.
And I was thinking, because I've gone to the library a couple of times since then. This was in July, obviously, and I noticed that there are other displays that have the same inaccessible, non-visible, little flyer that you can barely read and see. And the way that the displays are at the main library is perfect. There's just consistent places where they display them. There's two places where they consistently display something for that month, whatever the theme is or celebration. And but Lafarge and Southside don't seem to have that. And so it would be really great if they did have that, and if the display was along the wall and in larger text and more contrasted, so that people could see what is being celebrated and not just having it be a tiny little printout that's not really obvious. And so I am, and I let Margaret know that we would be in touch with our ideas and thoughts. She seems very into it. I don't think that she would in any way take offense. She's been very friendly and kind and understanding and helpful. And so I actually look forward to all of this. I think that once people in the city become aware that we exist as a committee, my hope is that they will reach out to us for our feedback and input and kind of include us in these events and this event planning, so that it would, go forward being accessible and more inclusive of everyone. And so,
And there's
I
a
guess
huge
that's,
population, right, of
yes,
kids, of children in or using special education on the south side of town. In the area of Santa Fe High, like the Lafarge Library, that should be accessible. And then the south side, feeds Capitol and all of those schools. So it really would be neat. They do different arts and crafts activities at these libraries. So maybe some tactile ones, maybe some, I don't know. I think we can throw ideas at her and see what she comes up with, but I think we can do it better. And I would love to see some authors with disabilities featured, and most importantly, New Mexico authors featured that have disabilities or, write about disabilities. I think that would be a great opportunity to do that.
yeah. Yeah, the displays that I saw more at Maine than at Lafarge did include some authors with disabilities, that's why I was like, okay, they're not just saying it about disability, it was inclusive somewhat. But I also am curious, it made me curious about how many books we even have in our library system. Like, was that all of the books that they have on disability from disabled authors? It was very small displays. So it just kind of, we have a lot of work to do on that. But I think that this is something that, we have a little less than a year, but I think that in the time that we have, we can make this happen and identify resources that they don't have, and also that they should have, and also to identify better ways of making this more inclusive and accessible within the entire community, in ways that you have expressed, Angelique. And thank you for saying all of that. I really, when we were talking about it, I thought, wow, what amazing ideas, and I really appreciated that. So that was why I wanted to hold off on speaking this, because I think that, you have really great ideas as a parent, and knowing that side of it, I have good ideas as far as, you know, knowing disabled authors and people that we can include that are not currently in the system for resources. And also just highlighting accessible features that are available in the library, different audiobooks or online resources and things like that that are available that should also be highlighted during Disability Pride Month. And then it should be Disability Pride Month also, not, you know, random things that they find. Because as much as those are important, I think that Disability Pride kind of encompasses all of it. And so, you know, we can highlight those things within the theme of Disability Pride and
Um,
kind of simplify it.
Yeah, and really highlight, you know, like the Capitol crawl and
Yeah.
how the fight evolved, how it
Yeah.
started, and why it started. And really, you know, maybe use the bulletin boards to highlight things that we offer within the city, you know, different resources that are available in the city. Maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe we can just use the bulletin board to educate and really, I don't know, give some good information out.
Yeah, we'll find where they, because I was looking when I was there at Lafarge, I was looking for like where they could put a permanent display, and they have places. They're not really accessible. One of them was really too tall. It was for someone who could stand and was also tall. And so, you know, those things like that can be addressed to maybe move that somewhere else and put a lower display that would be more accessible. And so we can make a list, but I just wanted to express that they did do a decent job, but there is definitely more work, and it's obvious that they did not adequately include the disabled community in their planning. And so I think that they will really benefit from our input, and maybe it can branch out to other displays and other celebrations for other similar communities of people. And so yeah, so anyway, this is very exciting to me. I'm very
And it's
happy.
really
Go ahead.
important to me, right? Because
Yes.
when my son was first diagnosed, my first child, I literally had to teach him sign. He's nonverbal, and I had to teach him sign out of the books at the main library. And it gets me really emotional because that was a stepping stone for us, you know. And I think it's really important to have things that are available to people with disabilities.
Yes. Yes, I very much agree. And I have a similar experience where my mom homeschooled me using library books. And that was all we had access to. And so the library to me is like an extension of me. It's not, it's just it's like my home. And the resources that disabled people get in libraries are invaluable. You cannot put a monetary amount on that. And so for resources, for education, for, you know, knowledge of everything, we really rely on libraries and library access. And so yeah, it should just be more inclusive overall. But we'll get there. We'll get there. If there's no more comments, can move on. All right, so next item 7C is the ADA emergency kits and urgent need for trainings in the city of Santa Fe emergency planning. Eli, I know you had some things to share, and I know you have to go soon. So if you want to start, and I can jump in, or I can start, one of the two.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Yeah, I don't really have any updates. I did reach out to Brian Williams, and he said that he was working on it, but I haven't heard any updates since then. It's been a couple weeks, so we may want to follow up with him, and maybe a little bit of a sense of urgency, because I also, in my email, had mentioned that disasters don't wait on us. They choose themselves. And looking at Maui and what happened there, it's not out of the picture that something as tragic could happen somewhere in New Mexico or even in Santa Fe. So I would like there to be a bit of a more urgency with Brian to get these kits available. I think one of the hangups was the training, and I had provided him with a contact for the training. So I don't frankly know what he's waiting for, but I don't mind following up with him tonight or tomorrow to see where he's at on this. I feel like there needs to be a bit more urgency on this.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Thank you, Eli. Regina, you have your hand raised?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Eli, for the update on that. So that's what my understanding was, is that he doesn't understand the equipment and he needed to be trained. And so you've given him that resource that he'd be looking for?
Yeah, we gave him points of contact, both myself and Nathan Guom, the executive director for the Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. So I'm not sure what the hangup is. He did respond and I respect that. And he said that he was following up, but I would really think it's important for him to get the training established. I'm happy to support in any way and get these kits moving forward for the city to utilize. And also just more in general continued conversations with him about people with disabilities and disasters in Santa Fe.
Mhm.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and-
I'll start an
yeah.
email right now with Kendra, Eli, me, and Brian and his boss on it.
Thank you.
I mean, Kathleen and Kendra.
Yeah, Kathleen. Yeah, me and Kendra. So one thing that because I've been following the Maui fires pretty closely. And so I noticed right away that we have very similar conditions happening in Santa Fe with invasive grasses and plants taking over. It's been an ongoing issue, but it seems to be getting worse by the year. And this year has been shockingly hot and dry and really more unbearable than any year. There's been years where it's been a little hotter, but not as consistently hot for so many weeks and months. And so, usually it gets hot for a week and then goes back down and we get monsoons and it cools off, and that hasn't happened at all this year. And so I noticed right away that the conditions in Lahaina were exactly what we are experiencing and the dangers that exist. And I also was looking at routes to escape for all of us in Santa Fe and thinking there are really not that many ways to get out of the city. If all 80,000 of us plus the tourists were trying to evacuate all at once, a similar issue would be occurring with traffic jams and confusion. And then I was thinking, I don't even know how to evacuate. Like if there was something happening, what's the plan? I've never seen any sort of a plan of where to go or who to contact or what to listen to, that we don't have air raid sirens, things like that. Anyway, there's a lot of questions that I'm left with, and recognizing that there are risks, and also that disabled people and elderly people are pretty much always left behind in emergencies and left to die or become injured. And so it's very concerning to me that I'm seeing the same kind of weather pattern happening that could lead to the same kind of emergency here. Go ahead, Regina.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Yes, we actually talked about this at executive staff a couple Mondays ago. It's not just Lahaina, it's Broomfield. If you remember 2 years ago in December, high winds, cigarette fire and grass took out 600 homes. Paradise, California, there's a number. So the emergency management team is beginning to develop, emergency plans for that scenario. And as well as evacuation routes. Luckily, we also now have a traffic signal engineer in Public Works who is a rock star and is also working with emergency management to be able to sort of like change all the lights for an evacuation mode, and green in one direction, red in another, that kind of a thing. We all noticed the same thing that you're noticing, Madam Chair, that it could happen at any time, to us, just like it's happening all over the country, and that we really need a plan. So when we get a chance to talk to Brian about the ADA kits, we should probably touch base on his timeline for making evacuation. Oh, and I also wanted to mention something that came up at that meeting, is that shelter in place is sometimes an extremely effective methodology. It's not always the best idea to get out on the road. And so that team is also developing criteria for shelter in place, as well as improvements to homes to make them safer places to stay than to leave, and those kinds of things. So it's a big project, but you're right. And the emergency management sees it, and it needs to get undertaken quickly.
Yeah. Thank you for that. yeah, I'm glad to know that I'm not the only one, because sometimes, there's like no communication. So it's like sometimes I feel like, okay, am I the only one saying this? But I'm glad to know that I'm not, and I'm glad to know that people are starting to work on this, because it's actually been in place for a long time, but this year has just been really shocking as to how dry and hot it has been. So it's kind of shoving it in all of our faces, saying this is a problem. So yeah, yeah, and I would really appreciate for whoever wants to be in on those meetings from the mayor's committee to be part of that, because it's a lot of it is disability planning and senior planning to evacuate seniors and disabled people who don't have anyone else to evacuate them, and to identify who would want that in an emergency. Because I know me and my mom, we have one person that could feasibly evacuate us. And because we're in two different locations, it would take time. It's not going to happen immediately. And so a lot of planning has to occur, and we have to adjust our plan according to what the city identifies as well. So go ahead, Aurora.
Oh, I'm very concerned about like people who don't have transportation, especially disabled who use Santa
You're breaking up.
Fe ride, senior van. It's a traffic flow, and you can't to your other. There's a lot of stuff. I really, I don't know. I think maybe Santa Fe Ride and Senior Van need to have lists of people who don't have other options. And maybe there should also be like bus routes to pick up people who don't have cars and who rely on public transportation. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into that.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, and it's a lot of strategizing too, because you have to understand, like, if the fire is coming from the south versus the north, it's going to be a different evacuation route and a different plan. So it's going to be a lot, but I think that the public definitely needs to be included, because one of the issues with Lahaina was that people didn't know what to do in case of a fire. They had never really planned for something like that to occur. And so people were just floundering, trying to figure out how to evacuate. And, we don't have an ocean here to jump into. So, it's kind of, there's just a lot of things that are going on, where we're just kind of stuck in this area. And what do we do in different circumstances? And so I would hope that there would be full communication with the public when the plans are identified, and get public feedback. Because the other thing that was identified, when you look at the maps, is that a lot of the neighborhoods are basically cul-de-sacs. So they have one route out. And so if a fire were to occur where the fire is pushing those people into their neighborhood, they have no way out. And so what do they do? And there's a lot of neighborhoods that are built like that. And so, it just seems like there's a lot of planning needing to be happening, and a lot of engagement with the neighborhoods, where things like that are affecting them, or where they're by an arroyo, or where they're by an open field that could catch fire and spread to their homes. And so it just, this is not going to happen overnight, I know. But I would hope that the city would engage those neighborhoods and reach out to them for feedback and thoughts of to identify what is even possible in those situations. Thank you, Aurora, for your feedback. I agree. I'm in it, so I agree. Go ahead, Eli.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Eli. So I totally agree with what everyone has just said. And Regina, I really appreciate that update about some of the things in the works with the city. And I'll just emphasize what Chair Gish just mentioned about community feedback. The gold standard for emergency preparedness and planning is what's called whole community. And that really involves the engagement of everyone in the community in order to plan and prepare for disasters. It's what FEMA's been doing for the last 15 years. And it's just shown itself to be the only way you can really effectively plan for emergencies and disasters in any community or city. And that's by engaging the community, to finding out what the community needs in order to safely evacuate, to shelter in place, what communications they need. So I would just encourage the city to please reach out to the community to get that feedback and input in their planning process.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eli. Thank you. Yeah, and we can work to make that happen. It's, you know, the city committees are a start, and then reaching out to the community as a whole is next. But I think with us and what we've been doing with Brian Williams to implement, you know, the use of these emergency kits is a really good start. And it kind of encompasses the needs as a whole, because these kits are are designed to incorporate community. And so, yeah, so I think we can definitely work on that, and we should. And I agree that to me, this is urgent. Like this is a very urgent need. So if there's no more comments or questions, we need to move on.
Yeah, and Madam Chair and everyone, I have to hop off.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eli.
So if my meeting ends early, my presentation ends early, I will hop back on.
Okay, thank you.
Apologies.
That's okay.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much, Eli. Thank you.
Appreciate everyone. Thank you. Great work.
Thank you, you too. Go ahead, Pam.
My question for Regina is, when people are talking about wildfires and, well, you have a hurricane in California, unusual weather events, does anyone ever talk about what if anything happened at Los Alamos? Is that ever brought up?
Thank you for that question. Actually, I don't think it's in our top 5 risks, actually, in our emergency plan. We have fire and flood, of course, our top 2. But nuclear blast in Los Alamos, I'm not sure if it's on the list.
No, it definitely should be at least top 10. I mean, it's definitely a risk, and including like when there was the fire that went through several years ago, and you know, just the dangers too of the air and what it was burning, you know, that posed a risk. And I've had health issues since, so I know that it's definitely a problem. Go ahead, Aurora.
I read something that made me feel reassured about Los Alamos, because I always figured, well, it'd be quick. But it's the amount of distance, and that this would be very effective.
I think for me,
Basically.
I think for me, it's more like if they had an accident, not necessarily like a nuclear blast, but just an accident. And, you know, that didn't, I mean, obviously if a nuclear bomb goes off, we're probably not going to know. But I think if there was an accident that occurred that created a disaster, like a dangerous disaster for the air and for fire and everything else, like that's definitely a possibility. I'm sure that they're careful. I'm sure that they're trying to be. But it's definitely a possibility. So I think we should keep it at least, like I said, on top 10, because I think that there is risk and we are relatively close. That's why I'm like, if there was a nuclear blast, I don't think any of us would know. Angelique, did you have your hand up?
I was just gonna say, I know it's important to have like a community plan and all of this, right? And we're responsible for taking part in that. But I think that as individuals or loved ones of people with disabilities, it's also our responsibility to have our own plan. And so, like I've stated before, you know, I've contacted the fire department and let them know that I have 2 children with disabilities. I have everything like written out. I have bags literally always packed because my daughter does breathe with a trach. And so even when there are fires off in the distance, sometimes we have to evacuate to Colorado or something because she cannot breathe. So we have to head to an area close to Denver Children's Hospital. But, you know, it's always good just to have your own plans and lists in case, you know, the Red Cross does have to be contacted or whatever. I think it's good to prepare and not depend on the city. You know, just saying.
Yeah. No, I mean, if that's an option, absolutely. And I agree with that. The thing is that what I noticed was happening in Lahaina, which is really sad, was that, you know, they were preparing for all of these different things and they didn't know that a fire like this could occur. It had been discussed, but there was no actual planning, there was no actual preparation. And I don't know how you would plan for a fire that moves a mile in a minute. I mean, that is, in 5 minutes, Santa Fe would be gone. You know, I don't know how you would plan for something like that. And so it's just, you know, I think if it's an option, yes, not everyone has someone who can help them evacuate, and that's definitely a problem, and it's definitely a contribution to disabled and elderly die the most in emergencies of any other population, because they don't have people to evacuate them, whether it's physically they can't evacuate them, or they just don't know anyone, they're socially isolated.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so that to me is like just bringing awareness that there are people here who are socially isolated.
Well, I
and
think
who
NODA is a clear picture of that, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's only 2 ways in and 2 ways out,
Yeah.
period. And
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we will be working on this and continuing to work on it, no doubt. I wish that it was further along than it is, because I would be a little bit more relieved, but it's definitely, I'm glad to know that it's at least moving forward now. So thank you, Regina, for your comments. And thank you, Angelique. Next is discussion and plan to implement inclusive city meetings, accommodations process, Zoom hybrid meetings, ASL, CART, languages, loop system in city buildings, and an ongoing need to correct and update community access. So I know I saw in the paper, Regina, I pay attention, or at least I try to. If you want to go and update us on the loop system, go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Did you say me or Pam? I think is no?
I don't have an update. I know it's supposed to start in September, but it was supposed to be in June. I don't know.
Okay, well, the big update is they ripped up the carpet in the council chambers in order to install a mesh loop system. And it was, the council chambers were closed all the week before last and last week for this project. And the loop gal of our preference came in and determined that we could not use a mesh loop system in that room because of the nails and the wood or something interfering with the mesh. So they put the new carpet down and there's no loop.
That's not cool.
I know. The plan is to use a thank you, oh my God, to use a circumference loop, a double loop around the room that's supposedly then you could sit in any chair at the end of anything, but they said that's the best they can do with that infrastructure, and it's not done yet. And the IT director was fired about 2 months ago, as you know. And so it's a little bit slow going, getting IT projects done at the moment. But Pam.
I don't know what a mesh loop is. I thought it was always supposed to be a phased array.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's the term. It's the one where it's gridded across the whole room.
Yeah, it's a phased an array under the seats.
That's what they couldn't, that's what she said she couldn't do.
But she had looked at it before, so this is Romy
Yep.
from Albuquerque.
This all happened on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about a week ago, where she was working with the team and that was having problems and then declared it impossible.
And so this is going to improve what's not working there by going a double loop and down the walls.
Just a double circumference around the room.
Well, that's going to be interesting.
I'm so sorry.
We'll
One
have to
step
try
forward.
it out.
What's
Yeah.
up?
No, my long-term hope, I'm gonna say it right now, my long-term hope is basically to gut the city council chambers and rebuild them to be accessible, because right now that we can't even have city council members using wheelchairs or assisted devices, and that just basically says disabled people shouldn't apply to be on the city council. And
That's
so,
correct, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
And what actually the mayor would want, and I've been carrying, and we actually have some pretty solid planning for, is a brand new city services center.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle of town with really super accessible parking, super accessible building, a fully modern state-of-the-art council chambers that everybody can have access to everything.
Yeah.
And we really need to make that project
Yeah.
happen.
yes, we do. Yeah.
Incredible, Regina. That's awesome. I love
I-
that.
I know, I'm excited too. If we could, we just need, 80 million bucks, but that's not a hurdle that we can't solve.
No, it takes community planning and gathering and communication and effort to make it happen, mostly. Go ahead, Pam, you don't have, okay. So is there anyone else who has anything else to say on the loop system? No, okay. So my other update is basically, so we had voted or decided to do a presentation to city council. That has not happened. August was a really super unbelievably busy month for me, and September is not looking any kinder. And so I'm hoping October to make this happen, to present to the city council on accessibility of their public meetings in all ways, which would be physical, including mentioning the lack of physical disability access for city council members themselves, but also for communication, and just kind of making it be an overview for how inaccessible the governing body is currently, and how much it can be improved, and how much public involvement would actually benefit them and benefit the entire community. Their plans will be more effective. The work that they're doing will be more meaningful. It will affect everyone in a positive way. And because everyone will be able to be involved as much as they choose to be. So there won't be any barriers to being able to voice to them or interact with them or be on the city council. And so that is my hope. So fingers crossed for October. That otherwise, trying to think of what else I wanted to say. I think that's pretty much it, because I was watching the special meeting, and I noticed that they did have Spanish interpreters properly, and they did have certain features in place. Zoom was not very good. The captions were not that great, I think, because of the venue. It was echoey, and there was different things going on with that room. They were having issues as well with their audio, so it was just an overall issue. But I think going forward, especially like with long-term plans, especially of a new city council chambers or some kind of room like that, where it is built to be inclusive and accessible, where there is ASL interpreters, where there is CART as possible, where there is different features available for people and larger screens so that people can see captions just built into the room, so that it's not like awkward. Like right now in the city council chambers, it's a little bit awkward and the screens are kind of small. And so I think if we plan for all of that, I think something really positive can happen, and it can be like a community engagement center. And so that's kind of what I've been organizing in my head to say to the governing body, more or less. Clearly I need to think out my thoughts and organize it all better, but in between all of the chaos happening in my life, just day to day, that's what's been organized. Go ahead, Regina.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I'd just like to say, I think that would be incredibly powerful and effective presentation, that they don't know what they don't know. And they need to just and I think faced with it by members of this committee and, in super clear terms, they will be all about it.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that support. Because right now it feels really big with everything I'm trying to organize in my life. But I think, yeah, and Gina Maria said we did it easily with the awards ceremony. It's going to be the same kind of thing. It's really, to me, it's really positive. to the idea of engaging the community and constituencies and having this public dialogue with everyone being able to participate and fulfilling those gaps that are happening because people can't participate. And so I think, yeah, to me, this is just really positive. So I'm actually really excited that that's in the plans long term. So we can work to make that happen too. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you.
So if there's no feedback or comments on that item, we can move ahead. Next is 7E, planning and creation of a disability nonprofit to support city outreach, inclusion efforts, and fundraising. This was mostly Eli's thought, so I'm sad he can't be here, but we can discuss it more in the next meeting. And just a brief overview was one of the needs that we identified during the disability awards was that we couldn't do fundraising as the mayor's committee, and there's different needs happening. And so Eli created, you know, an LLC to do fundraising. And then we identified that there's numerous nonprofits that are aligned with the city. One is like Keep Santa Fe Beautiful and different things like that. The Friends of the Library. And so one of the things that we've been thinking of is how do we create a nonprofit that deals with disability awareness and kind of celebration. It would be around disability pride. It would be really positive. But how do we make that happen? Can we make that happen? Is that a possibility? We don't really know. We're just looking into it. And so, but that would allow for fundraising for the event so that the burden would be less on the city. You know, as Regina had stated, she paid over $10,000 for the food. We don't want that kind of a burden to happen for the city if that can be avoided. If we can do kind of fundraising through the nonprofit for our events or for outreach and different awareness needs that we have. And so we're just trying to figure out the feasibility of all this. We don't even know who to go to in the city. And so, yeah, so anyway, I'm just putting it out there that was one of our thoughts. Gina Maria, I know you had been discussing that with Eli, so if you want to add some things to that, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Maybe Kendra or Angelique, would you like to tell people kind of what we're talking about or what we're thinking of?
I've been kind of absent in this, so I would actually probably not be the best person to add to this. So I think I'll let you, Gina Maria and Angelique, go for it and kind of inform everyone.
So we're at a point that we're looking at the pros and cons of making this a nonprofit. And we actually have a meeting on the 19th with someone that Eli has invited that's going to come and just talk to us about the steps, the process, and what the pros and cons are. So it's really exciting. We are like a very hot pot of water ready to overboil with ideas.
So we were fortunate enough for the awards to be blessed by the city to cover the cost of the food. And then out of pocket, Eli covered the venue and the insurance, and he made sure to get all of the audio things. He covered the cost of that as well. Kendra had out of pocket expenses, and it cost me about $2,500 out of my own pocket to pay for the signing interpreters, the awards, the photo backdrop, the programs, just different things. And so we're hoping that as we move forward, that we can figure out what is the best way to get those things sponsored or covered. You know, all of us poured our heart and souls into this award ceremony, and we're hoping that we really make the best decision, whether it is a nonprofit or to continue the way that we are for next year's and then, you know, make a decision at a later time. We're just trying to get the most important information to make the right decision and to make these events for July long-term. So we want to be able to support these events long-term. And so that's kind of what we're looking at, what we're discussing, what we're weighing heavily on. And, you know, so after the 19th, hopefully we have more information. But yeah, I think it was a collaborative of a lot of people just pouring their heart and souls into this event, and it showed. I really think it showed.
Yeah, Regina?
Wow, thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you everybody for providing some transparency about the expenses and how they were covered for the event. I have two thoughts. One of them is, I wonder if I could be provided with the entire budget and see if there is any avenue by which the city sponsors, it becomes a city event, that the city pays for everything for any, I don't know if that's a possibility at all, but I think I should check. I know it was an incredibly valuable experience, a huge success, and it opened a lot of people's eyes. So it'd be a good time for me to follow up on that. And then the other thing is, I would say is that another group is Carol Branch is the executive director of Keep Santa Fe Beautiful and has led that nonprofit for decades. It'd be really interesting to talk to her about how that works. And I don't know if that's who you're talking to, but she's super accessible, super smart person that might be helpful. Thank you.
Gina Maria, will you clarify that for me? I think it's someone from SCORE that we're meeting with. Is that correct?
I'm not sure. All I know is the person's name is Roger. That's what we got on the email thread that we're.
Okay.
Yeah, Eli had mentioned SCORE to me, but I don't know if that was who you're meeting with, so.
He said
I
that
think
he
so.
knows people from SCORE, and he had a couple of other people that he knows that might be available, and we had a name, but we don't know. We'll find out, don't worry.
We're not too sure what they're from or how that's being done, but yeah, we do have somebody that we're gonna be meeting with.
And I
come
think
this
we've been
week.
tossing ideas around to have some big fundraisers and to start, you know, ahead of time. We were crunched together, like I think in a 3-month I don't know, amount of time, but I think we're gonna start earlier and just try to get ahead of the game this time.
Yeah, I'm hoping to start in January and really organizing it out little by little so that there's no rush and no stress and no last minutes. There's always going to be last minutes, but like less minutes.
Yesterday, like I told them, I'm like,
Alona?
Does it matter who donates?
it does not.
Go ahead.
'Cause I don't know if anybody has any feelings about like the casinos and
You know, one of our main objectives, I guess, or whatever, was to get the local pueblos involved, and that's why we gave out awards to the pueblos, because we really want to bridge with them and start to provide. We want to respect the pueblos, but we want to provide services and resources to the people, right? And we want to be a tool to them. So no, it doesn't matter who donates. And we had a tier system, and I think we raised I think they said about $1,500 with, you know, the fundraising. So people want to get involved and people want to support this. That was clear. And so we're just thinking if we start early this year that we might have a better networking as far as fundraising and support for the events. Plus it brought different businesses to realize where they were lacking in ADA areas and where they needed to provide more jobs or resources or whatever. So it just opened up a great conversation in the city. And I think the response was really, really amazing.
Yeah, I agree. So one of the things that Eli had said was that through his LLC, which is registered as a business, people don't get a tax write-off for their donations. And so he wanted to kind of make it more so that people would be able to donate and in a more affordable way where they could write it off on their taxes. And so that was one of the main discussions of why it needed to be a 501c3. And so of course we would still need a fiscal sponsor, just being small. But and that's fiscal sponsor, not official sponsor, to the captions. So by having a fiscal sponsor, we would be able to take donations. We wouldn't be in charge of them as much. It would be the fiscal sponsor being in charge of it. It would be more protected that way for us as well. And then anyway, it would just create more of an accessible, understandable means of donating, and also of participating, because people understand what a nonprofit is, and what a nonprofit does, for the most part. And so, yeah, and Gina Maria said that was why we used ARC as our fiscal sponsor, was for that very reason. But okay, who had their hands up? I was going on. No one? Okay. But anyway, so yeah, that would make it just, I mean, and I think people like understand the idea of a nonprofit as being like a community resource, and a means of gathering people together with like-minded goals, and you know, it's not gonna be the same as this committee. Like, this committee is more of like a problem-solving committee, and you know, we deal with meeting needs in a very direct way, changing policies and things like that. The nonprofit, as far as we've discussed it so far, of course it can change, is more like celebrating the positives that come out of all of that work, and gathering people together who are really supporting us, and then also donating for the causes to celebrate and bring awareness and address the needs, but more of like in a more supportive manner. Go ahead, Pam.
Some interruption occurred with the audio, so I'm a little behind in understanding what Gina Maria said about using ARC as a fiscal sponsor. Is that for me to understand as an umbrella organization that has a 501c3 already?
Right.
Yes.
So, and we don't know the answer to this yet. We've been trying to find out. So Eli's business is an LLC. His registered with the state as an LLC. The ARC is a 501c3, obviously, and they were our fiscal sponsor. We don't know if people can do tax write-offs with having a 501c3 fiscal sponsor unless we are also a 501c3 organization. I have not been able to find that information online. And so clearly we need to be meeting with people and asking those questions. That hasn't happened yet. It will happen. And so that's what's been going on, is just trying to figure out the logistics of it, the needs of it, how it would benefit us to be a 501c3, how it would benefit donors and businesses who want to support the work of Disability Pride and all of those related, you know, the award ceremony and everything. And disability awareness. And so it's just a lot of like research and connecting with people and finding out what is needed and what is the downside, what is the positives, what, you know, what is going to happen, what is it going to look like. But that's what happened for our event, was the ARC was the fiscal sponsor for the LLC. And so the $1,600 roughly that was donated directly to the ARC as our fiscal sponsor. And then those funds were made available to cover the expenses for the event. And that's similar to how it would continue to occur. Go ahead, Gina Maria.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer. I cannot give you advice. I cannot represent you, blah, blah, blah. Disclaimer, insert disclaimer. But I have worked with fiscal sponsors on other occasions in other states, and we have been able to write donations off on taxes because it depends on where the money lands at first, and that's why people use fiscal sponsors.
Yeah,
Or-
I'm hoping that an attorney will tell us that, honestly, because that it makes sense. Like that to me makes sense. Because they are the fiscal sponsor, they are the nonprofit that is holding the funds that was technically donated to, and then they just disperse the funds to the appropriate event or channel, whoever is the one needing those funds. But like I said, I have not found anything online. So I am
I'll
definitely
let you
looking.
know if I find someone
Yeah.
that has the answer, but I'll make
Thank
a
you.
couple calls.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And Angelique, you had your hand up.
And with that money, we need to remember that we still need to pay Sammy for her hard work because she did design the logo and she designed she put together like the site. She just did all kinds of stuff for us, so we still need to pay her. We haven't done that. And we did rely a lot on in-kind donations as well, where people donated goods or services, and we were really grateful for that as well. And they didn't claim that, obviously. They just did it because they were just as passionate about this event as we were.
Yeah, thank you, Angelique. Yeah, I'm hoping that maybe we can compile all of that and put it into a packet, and just kind of do an overview and a thank you to everyone, because a lot of people put a lot of time and energy and money into that event, and I was amazed that it all came together as beautifully as it did, but that was the efforts of everyone who contributed. And so, it's amazing to me. I always say when people come together and put their energy together, the amazing things that can happen. And that to me is a perfect example. We had very short time and very little resources, and everyone contributed in some way, and it came together amazingly in a very short amount of time too. So
Very well said.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Angelique. Are there any other questions or comments on item 7E? No. Okay. So next is discussion items. Item 8A, continued discussion on updated ADA coordinator job description and continued discussion of appropriate city placement for ADA coordinator and the Mayor's Committee on Disability. Regina, would you update us on the ADA coordinator, but I know he has a new title now, so.
He does. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm super happy to finally report that the new Equity and ADA manager has received a contingent offer and accepted it for the position. Oh my God. Yay! And I don't actually have a start date, but I expect it's going to be the early part of October, first pay period probably. It's been so slow getting through HR, just molasses, but he's really excited. He's totally on board. This guy is ready to rock. Has a lot of great ideas about how to get us going. And so I'm really excited. He at the organizational structure, as we've discussed, and I think you guys are aware, is that he's in Public Works right now, largely because Julie Sanchez, who will be the director over the new Office of Equity and Inclusion, or whatever it will ultimately be called, will be on maternity leave. She's actually gone already. And so I will be Daniel Lopez will be the direct report to me. And then I'll get a chance to train him about the city. I figured we'd start the self-evaluation right away. We're a decade behind on that. Be a great place to start, I thought, as well as supporting some of the key initiatives that the committee here has raised, which is certainly accessibility of council meetings for one. and then maybe institutionalization of the Disability Pride event. And then once the Office of Equity and Inclusion is created, which is actually in a resolution being sponsored by Councilor Romero Worth right now, and worked on, the vision is that he would transition to lead that office under Julie Sanchez in the Community Health and Safety Department and the Youth and Family Services Division.
That's fantastic.
It's a big way. We came a long way.
That's wonderful.
I wasn't aware of almost all of that, so thank you. Wow, that's big. Yeah, that's amazing. So the part that I was aware of was that Julie Sanchez had emailed me about the disability statistics, because in the special meeting for the governing body, they were initially going to vote to include the office to be voted for by the public. And then there was some discussion, which I very much agree with, basically, in short, to say that the public really shouldn't be kind of in charge of voting for people's civil rights or not. Like, that was the short comment of it. That, people might have biases or, not understand what's going on. And so they might vote it down. And then what happens? They would just have to go through this process anyway. So what they're doing is they are just going forward with what they have authority to create, which is the Office of Equity and Inclusion. They can do that as the governing body. And so it's not going to be stalled until November and then potentially voted against, and then stalled again until January. It's just going forward. And so I was actually kind of excited, even though I understand that it's not going to be institutionalized as much. I think that anyone who tries to get rid of it at this point is going to have a fight, because we have wanted it for so long. And so, and we have so many reasons to have this kind of an office. And so it's very needed. And, when we were meeting with Daniel Lopez, I had no idea that he would be the person heading it. So that's actually really thrilling. Yeah, so that makes all of my gears just start moving of like, what is the possibility of all this? So that's amazing. But I know that it is going forward, which I was very happy to see anyway, just that it's not going to be stalled. And I know Julie's going to be out she told me about 3 months. And so I'm thinking we're going to be doing this around January. Is that to transition to the new office, possibly January, February?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't know the timing. I'm not even sure where that resolution is at right now. And so even that could take 3 months, but somewhere I think you're right, between January and March sounds right to me. And certainly I'll stay connected to Daniel for more of the traditional, maybe ADA stuff, while everybody else gets a piece of for the equity. I mean, this is really exciting. I mean, this is like taking somebody, and he really knows this stuff, right? He's worked for cities for 30 years, helping them create accessibility for everything, housing, access to government, job opportunities, huge. And so he's super excited to do that. But things like, just think about this, public engagement, you're like trying to even just get eyeballs on the website, but we have public meetings all the time. Are they accessible? Do those have even the council meetings aren't, but surveys and, voting and everything. So it's really, really, really exciting. And I think this committee will have a big role to play in helping to prioritize where, there's a lot to do and where do you start?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we're gonna be busy really soon, which is gonna be really good though. It's what we've been trying to make happen. So, the way I see him is like, he's kind of like the person, he's gonna be our go-to person, but he's gonna be the person to be like filling that gap where we've been trying to fill this gap and saying, hey, these are these needs, and you've come in and like tried to do what you can do. But he's going to be the person to say, this is my role, this is my job, this is what's supposed to happen, and this just needs to happen and make it happen. So so it's very exciting. Our work is going to be both busier and less. So thank you. And are there any questions, comments, feedback?
There's a comment in the chat, Madam Chair, that Gina Maria suggested that he might be invited to the next MCD meeting. Is that what you were saying, Gina Maria?
Of course, I say our meeting and I went, oops, I'm not technically here yet. Whoops.
Yeah, I would invite him. And the other person I wanted to invite, because October is Disability Employment Awareness Month. If we could invite Bernadette from HR if possible, or someone else in HR. I know that that's going to be hard, but just like Disability Employment Awareness Month. If not, but we can reach out and ask.
Thank you,
So-
Madam Chair. It's just the value of the engagement is what I'm thinking about. We actually want somebody who will listen and care.
Yeah.
You know who might be a good one is the deputy city manager is actually supposed to be our escalation person for HR issues if we can't get what we need there. But I think it would be great for deputy. What do you think about that, Helena, as an idea? Deputy city manager. Yeah, okay. That's Layla Archuleta Maestas. And I think she would be a great representative of the city executive team with respect to hiring issues.
Okay. Yeah, because one thing that I'm thinking too is like addressing the issues that we experienced with the application process, and kind of, discussing those things and kind of bringing that back up as an issue that puts a barrier in people's place to even applying or to even gaining information, because there's nothing on the HR pages about how to get access, how to get accommodations met or anything like that. And so that is still just sitting there. And I haven't been moving forward with it because we haven't had an ADA coordinator, and it's just too much work for you to do. And I don't want to put that burden on you. But I think we should just at least bring it up for Disability Employment Awareness Month. And just kind of as a, hey, this is still ongoing and it's not fixed. And if we could have someone who is kind of tied to that, that would be really helpful.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think
yeah.
that's Layla is the right
Yeah.
person because she is also sitting over IT now that we don't have an
Okay.
IT director. So that web-based application and HR issues is a great place for her to become more aware. And
Perfect.
I'm
Yeah.
sure she'd love to attend.
Okay, cool. Yeah, if she could, please reach out to her. And also please invite Daniel. Even if he can only attend for a meet and greet, that would be fine. I would love to just, have him say hi to everyone and have all of us be able to say hi back. And start that process to transition.
We'll do it right now, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. So if there are no more comments or questions about item 8A, we can move forward to the amended agenda items. 8B, updates on the vacant Mayor's Committee on Disability position. Regina, I know you're trying to do two things now. So if you have any updates on that, I'm just totally confused about the process that's occurring. So any sort of just update would be great.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and everybody. I think we got a lot of good support from the city clerk this time because of the incredible inaccessibility of the online application form for membership to the Mayor's Committee on Disability. They were willing to accept resumes, which was great, with no additional interviews needed or anything. Yep. And I know that we have 2 applicants who 2 of them are with us today. I think I might have gotten a 3rd email. I need to check that said, can I still apply even though it's late? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
Cherish?
Yeah. I think, was that Dawn? I think that
Well,
was
I got Dawn and I got, so
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's a 3rd one or not. There
Okay.
may not be. The
Okay.
process actually is, since this is the mayor's committee, the mayor chooses, makes a recommendation to governing body, and the governing body endorses the recommendation of the appointment at a governing body meeting. And they will, he will be very interested in my opinion, and he will be very interested in the chair's opinion.
Okay.
And then he will make his own determination.
Okay. So just so you know, so what happened in the past, and this, I mean, Aurora, you can chime in too. But what we've done was we all as a committee kind of did a process where we looked at the candidates, decided who, and it's really hard when they don't attend meetings. But we decided who would best either fill a gap in our representation, or who has been most active, if there was anyone active. and kind of decided how they would be a good fit, who would be the best fit. Was someone trying to be on the committee with a bias? We get people applying, trying to promote jobs and all businesses and all kinds of things. So we kind of have to like weed those people out, because obviously we're not here to promote businesses. So, and so we as a committee would decide who we wanted on our committee first. Like we would do like kind of like ranked choice voting, like first, second, and third, and then who was eliminated altogether. And then we would recommend our number one choice to the liaison and then to the mayor. And if there was no issues found or anything occurring, then that person would go for appointment on to being, but that's not happening this time. And so I don't know, like, if it's just lack of communication, which, like I said, a lot of things right now just seem to be all over the place, and I get it. But that has always kind of been how we've done it.
You could do it that way. That would
okay.
work just fine.
Okay, so we can still move forward with our normal process. Okay,
Absolutely.
because that was what I was not clear on, because the communication with the city clerk, it was just like, it just seemed like they were, you know, and I understand because that form, as I expressed in the meeting that unfortunately got deleted, it was just not accessible. Like even to me, I'm like, you know, halfway through it would just get erased because I would accidentally close my browser, knowing me. So, but yeah, so as long as we can move forward with our normal process and then make the recommendation for who we want to be on it. And then I was also thinking, well, me and Eli both were also thinking to do kind of an interview process because not everyone is active in our meetings. And then also, you know, which I've expressed in the past, is that people who want to be on this committee, it's really helpful if they do participate ongoing. And then we know who they are and we know how they fit and we know how they can help and they understand what we are about. So they don't come on the committee thinking, you know, that it's going to be one way and it's something completely different. And so, anyway, that's been an ongoing discussion. Regina, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there a point that someone on the committee that we've never seen here, the person who's absent right now?
Chris,
Yes. Is that person participating? Because the reason that I'm asking is Kendra asked the question in the chat, is there only one position? And I just wanted to see if this person is actually going to participate at any point.
So Chris told me, and this is really frustrating because when he applied, he was working in a different job. And then he got a job in a different place that is more strict and apparently has meetings at the same time as this committee meeting. So when he first applied, he could attend this time. And then his job transferred and he can't attend this time. And so that's why I've been excusing him, because it's not his fault. When I emailed him for asking him for the questions for the city council members, he did reply. He gave me 5 questions. And they're very good questions. And so I'm like, you know, and I just wish that he could participate at this time, because that's the only thing to me that's hanging him up. Otherwise he would be participating. It's that he has to be in his job in another meeting at this time. That's a required meeting. And so I feel really frustrated because this was the only time that we could all meet. So it just, and then he's like the one that gets left out. And I've been trying to figure out ways where I could engage with him and you know, have him communicate back to me, but I've been obviously dealing with other things. And so it just kind of keeps getting put on the back burner, where I'm just going to excuse him until January, until we get our hours redone, and maybe he can join then. And if not, then I would ask him to resign. But that's just kind of where I feel like trying to be fair and not kick him out. But then, you know, we're lacking a member too. So, and I would love feedback on this, because it's not easy to be in this position of like, do I kick someone off the committee because of something that's not even his fault? You know, go ahead,
you
Gina
can
Maria.
attend. I don't know. I mean, people quit because they can't attend.
Yeah. Go ahead, Gina Maria.
When I applied for FEMA, I had it very clearly put that I'm a member of disability. I'm on the board for Disability Rights New Mexico. So when very shortly after we started, very shortly, I think it might have even been in the first week, we had a board meeting. So I'm like, okay, I have a board meeting. We only have like 4 or 5 board meetings a year. And they're like, okay, great, but you can't do it here. So I had to go out in my van during a snowstorm for a 4-hour board meeting. It was really wicked. Anyway, but you know, if you include it in your resume, they kind of have to say yes. That's what I figured. So I didn't really ask permission. I informed them. Oops.
Yeah, and I mean, his job position, I don't know any details about it. I know where it is. I know that they can be very strict. And so I've just, we've been trying to figure this out. I've definitely discussed it with Eli, about what to do. But with everything happening this last year, it's just been kind of, he had to wait to be appointed, for a long time on top of that. So that kind of delayed it. And then it was just kind of unclear and up in the air when we were deciding this time. And he was transitioning to a new job. So at that same time. So it was just like really seriously unclear. And so I kind of feel like it's unfair to just kick him off. But we are lacking a member. We are. And so go ahead, Gina Maria.
I think that maybe, I don't know, Regina, what do you think of this? Maybe it would be helpful if Kathleen and Regina got together and wrote a letter to his employer stating that he is a member and that we look forward to collaborating with him, and just kind of a letter of support that he could give to his employer and say, because I'm not really sure how this works in all cases, but I don't think they can say no, can they?
He has another
Yeah.
meeting, so they probably.
Yeah, he has another meeting that's required. It's not something that's optional, and that was the issue. Yeah.
Right. No, they can't say yes unless you ask. So
I think he should resign if he has a permanent conflict.
Yeah. I think, well, one of the things that I was thinking of, as I have a whole list of things that are possible, one of the things I was thinking of was for him to resign and then reapply as soon as he was able to, as soon as we have a vacancy. And that I don't know if we can give him priority or whatever, because he's on the committee and it was not his fault. I really don't know. But that way, maybe and I can include him, when we're discussing our new time for the new year. I could include him to make sure that he would be able to attend meetings, even if he's not an official member. I don't know how that would work with his schedule or not. So it's a lot of discussion and going back and forth and figuring out how we would include him. I talked with him several times before just to kind of update him on what was going on with the process and the delays happening to appoint him. And he seems very engaged and very much wanting to be part of this committee. It's just kind of, it's been a process with his new job. Pam and then Helena.
I don't know him at all. I am wondering 2 things. What disability population is he most representing or wanting to represent? Or is it a general type of thing? And 2, has anyone talked to him recently in the last couple months about his inability to attend this particular meeting? And what is does he have a strong desire to make this work out sometime, or is it never been brought up with him?
I haven't had a chance to really talk in depth about it. And he has legal blindness. So that's one thing that we are lacking. Seriously, we are lacking that really badly. I'm partially blind, but I'm not to the extent that he is. So it's yeah, I mean, he would be a benefit to our committee if he could participate. It would be filling a gap that is present. But yeah, so it's just a lot to figure out, and I don't want to like be mean and just be like, kicking you off without any sort of discussion. I want to be humane and think about the best route for all of us. But this does include that, I can't just make these decisions by myself. I really do need support and feedback and help to figure this out, because I don't want to do anything that is inhumane to anybody and that would affect somebody. And so, I want to be thoughtful and caring, and like I said, what's one of the things I was thinking of was to open the opportunity to reapply, and say, please reapply, if we were to say that he needed to go right now while he can't participate. Go ahead, Helena.
Yes, does the committee have any bylaws, or do we need to, or do you wish to, Madam Chair, enact any bylaws that if you miss so many meetings,
Right.
we respectfully ask you allow somebody else to participate
Right.
in that position? That's just a suggestion.
Yeah, we do have bylaws, and they do stipulate that. We have not been enforcing any of those for the entirety of the pandemic, for obvious reasons, and just to be humane, because people are really suffering right now. And so, that's kind of part of all this too, is just needing to be a little bit more lenient. But I honestly was a little bit shocked when, he suddenly said he changed his job and he couldn't participate. I was like thinking, well, we went through all of this to get you on our committee, and now we just have to wait until we can find a time when he can attend. And so Gina Maria said, wait until Daniel can guide us on this. That's possible, but Daniel isn't going to come in anytime soon. So it's just kind of, I think it's more of a need to have a complete committee, and I agree with that. I've even been trying to think of, can I ask Christopher to, watch our videos and give me feedback for each meeting, just so he can participate. And so that I can have his opinions and needs, and I can voice them during our meetings. Just because it feels like he's just hanging himself and just, floundering himself and not knowing how to even participate in this committee. And that's unfair to him as well. Go ahead, Pam.
I don't know this person, and I don't think I've missed that many meetings. When was he ever at a Zoom meeting? As everyone else knows who this is but me, and I just happened to be out of the town on that day or something?
Well, he attended one meeting. I don't know if you were there. It was a meeting where we unfortunately couldn't do a meet and greet. It was like one of those meetings where it was like everything just came together and we just had to go forward with our agenda, and I couldn't stop and take time to really introduce him. And I felt really bad about that, because, it's like when things are really stressful and you have a huge agenda and things have some sincere deadlines that were not being met. That was the meeting that he joined. And so it's really frustrating, because it should have been more positive, like our meetings are now. But it really wasn't. And so it was a very stressful meeting, and it just, I don't know. I mean, he literally attended one meeting. He was able to attend one meeting. So that's it. Yeah. And it wasn't a nice one. So go ahead, Regina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Back to the matter of another matter of immediate issue, which is the appointments to the current single vacancy. And I brought that up to see if we wanted to have 2 vacancies to work with right now. But I wonder if it's so funny, at the same time as we've been talking, the city clerk's office just emailed me and asked me for my recommendation on appointment to the vacancy. And so I was wondering if I could tell them how long it would be before we could make a recommendation to the mayor.
I would say 2 weeks. We could decide it within 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. So is there any other comments or questions on this topic? It's very frustrating. There's no easy answer to me. But I'm trying to go about it being the most humane. Go ahead, Gina Maria.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Regina, when you answer her, could you ask her then how long she would expect after that, the new appointment would find out? Like, is there a timeline on her end too?
Yeah, it's pretty fast. We would put it on probably the next governing body agenda for appointment. So I would say probably 4 weeks to somebody being in the seat, right?
Yeah, hopefully I know what happened last time should not happen again. That was
Thank you.
just, yeah, that was a lot of just barriers over barriers at that time. And a lot of it was because we didn't have a liaison. So we do have one now. And so it should go a little faster, I hope.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So next item is 8C, continue discussion of updates on city website features and accessibility. Me and Eli both, oh, go ahead, Regina. Go ahead.
Sorry, Madam Chair, that reminds me, I wanted to ask the committee for a letter. The city clerk has agreed to remove Accessibility. Of course, they are insisting that will be sued by the federal government for inaccessibility by removing them because they are such an awful company. And they are requesting a letter from the mayor's committee saying that you would rather have nothing than Accessibility.
Yeah, and we can cite why, because we have those references. So thank you.
That'd be awesome.
Will do, and I put that down for me and Eli to work on that. And Pam, please also join in. Go ahead, Pam.
I don't know what Accessibility is.
It is an audio reader. Well, it has several accessibility features, but the problem is that it's an overlay that you can't turn off. So it can read the audio on a website. It can enlarge the text on a website. It can change the colors of the text on a website and contrast and things like that. But the problem is that it can't be turned off. So for people who have their own forms of accessible equipment, technology, whatever, they cannot use it with Accessibility being an overlay, which means the website is not accessible to them because it blocks their form of accessibility.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like there's a lot more going on that just takes place in these meetings and I'm out of the loop. So I'm going to keep asking if I just didn't hear it or there's something that people are talking about in normal everyday life and it gets brought up at these meetings and I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, no, that's a valid question. And to me, there are no wrong questions. If someone doesn't understand something or know what something is, please ask, because that's what this meeting is for. And it also helps me because a lot of times when I'm talking, I kind of have to organize my thoughts. Someone's audio is being really bad. Oh, thank you, Miriam. So I have to organize my thoughts in order to communicate it. And so it actually helps me because I have to think about, like, I don't just know it, I have to think about how to communicate it to somebody. And then that helps me to be able to organize it in my head to be able to do that. So it's good overall. Pam, go ahead.
I'm sorry, here's another thing I don't know. Mr. Don Miller, I do not know who you are. Were you introduced? Are you interested party and just listening to this meeting? I didn't hear an introduction, so I don't know. I'm going to ask at the end of the meeting. Who's here?
I have applied to be on the committee as I have an interest, personal interest from primarily my wife. My late wife was a polio survivor, and she spent the last 13 of her years in a wheelchair. So I'm pretty familiar with a lot of issues, and I would just like to, kind of in her honor, be on the committee and hearing all kinds of things here today that I'd like to be part of. So I've made the application, and then my interest is personal.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. And even Gina Maria, I'm assuming you're also applying for this position.
She is.
Yes, Yes. And excuse me, Donna, as a wheelchair user, please use people first language, which just means that your wife wasn't in a wheelchair, she was a wheelchair user. I actually have started to say I'm a chariot driver. People say, you know, you're a wheelchair user. I'm like, I'll now run you over. Just because I don't sleep in it, I don't drive in it, I don't take a shower in it, there's a lot of things I don't do in my chariot, but when I need to move, I move in my chariot, so. And now I forgot why I raised my hand.
We were
Something
discussing
about
the city website.
Oh, yes, Pam. So, Eli has a group of people that are mostly, I want to say mostly people that work for the state, that it's a group of people that he has invited to talk specifically about digital issues, and the overlay came up through that. And I learned about the overlay when I got my ADA coordinator certification. So there's a lot of different information out there, but one of the issues with the company that the city presently has is that they say, if you use us, you'll never be sued. And it's totally not true, because can't say that. But anyway, so there's problems with them and they're going.
Yeah, and it's the same kind of issue that it makes me wonder where that term was, where the city clerk's accomplishments for 2022 included that the website was ADA certified, but that doesn't exist. And so, you know, who told them that? Because they didn't make that up. Someone told them that. And so I'm wondering who still, but that is not a thing. And so it just is concerning to me that the city is basically being lied to by companies, and that should not be happening at all. That kind of it's predatory business practices, and it should not be happening. And so so it's concerning to me, and it also highlights just the need for general ADA and disability awareness within the city so that they can protect themselves from scams. Yeah. So the other question that I have, Regina, is that I have not heard any updates on the printing printing to PDF of the website. I was hoping to at least get an update that they had done it, you know, the things that I had submitted, because it was done partially. It was done so that if it was small, the margins stayed within the page and you could print it very small, but the text can't be made bigger because it's not text wrapping. And that issue, which I did submit, has not been, I've not gotten any feedback on that. So if you did get feedback, could you forward that to me? Or if there's no feedback, could you re-forward it to them? Because you had said that you were going to do that one more time. The other issue, real quick, is that the page to submit web access issues or web issues has a text box that's literally like this big. And so you cannot see what you've even copied and pasted to make sure that it's all in there. And if that could be like an actual form, that where you can actually see what you have submitted and maybe even attach an image or a PDF or something of the web page area, that would be really helpful, because I can't really submit what the issues that I'm having through that city website. And I do have her email directly, so I could email her directly, but most of the public would not. So.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I must have failed. It looks like I do have something from her.
Okay.
I have your email that talks about the saving as PDF and 100% size and all that. That's the one, right?
Yeah.
And she said back, we'll have our web developer look into it as soon as we have issued the new PO for the fiscal year, which, believe it or don't, we barely have done this, but I will forward this to her again and CC you and see if we can get an update.
Thank you so much. I
Thank you for the
appreciate it.
reminder.
Yeah. And that was the only things that I have written down to discuss today, for that. I know there's other issues going on. We need to update the mayor's committee pages and all of that, but that's down the line to me. These are more important, issues. So that will be in the next few months, we can start working on the mayor's committee webpage and updating all of that. So if there's no more questions or comments on the city website or features and accessibility, we can move on. Next is item 8D, Mayor's Committee on Disability Subcommittee reports. Are there any subcommittee reports? No?
Yes.
Go ahead, Pam. Go ahead, Pam.
Just
Oh.
that after, my gosh, 3 years, HLAA, Hearing Loss Association of America, is going to resume the Santa Fe chapter. And our first meeting, if anyone is interested, is September 16th, 10 to noon. And the subject is digital technology for smartphones to aid the heart of hearing. So spread the word, please. Just show up at the Board of Realtors Association building, which is next to Jinja on Guadalupe.
Thank you for that, Pam. Aurora?
The transportation meeting we were trying to put together didn't happen. They're gonna wait until the new person comes on and all of that. But we do have, of the 9 members that we had when the pandemic hit, we have 5 who are coming back. So we have at least the basis of a group. So that's good news. So hopefully soon.
Yay. Yeah, let me know, because I do have things to share. None of it's urgent, luckily. It's just things that might make improvements, and some positive comments. My mom has been using the senior ride van lately, to get things done, and they've been very helpful and attentive, and much more accessible than they were when she stopped using it, which was several years ago. You know, she was happy that she could just get in the van without having to step on a tiny little step stool like they used to make people step on. And so, you know, because even though she's like somewhat able, it still was really precarious. And so, anyway, she was very grateful to be in really nice vans and with really nice drivers that were very helpful. So
They have
so
wonderful drivers. Yeah.
yeah. So Regina, go ahead.
I'm so glad to hear that. And that's the senior van, not from our transit team, but from the seniors team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I just wanted to say, I think Aurora, the new person you're talking about, is our new transit director of administration. And that is a fair point. She probably, I'll check in with Tomas, who's the transit director of operations, who really is probably the right one to do your meeting.
Well, he was trying. I mean, but I don't know, he didn't think he had the right to go forward. But we were working with him. That's who we were working with. So maybe from above, he is told he has the right to go forward.
For
We
like the 10th
will move
time.
on it. Huh?
So thank you so much for letting me know, but that is going to be a great addition to the team. I think what our new Gabriela Chavez is the new transit director of administration, and she comes from NMDOT. She's been helping the Blue Bus. She helps all the small transit systems in the whole state. So she's really super transit savvy. And I think her big contribution will be in the zone of sort of public information and customer service. She'll own that team, you know,
Okay.
where Tomas will own the sort of what we do when we pick somebody up and the equipment and that
Operations,
kind of
yeah.
thing. But certainly having her around will help him have more capacity and time to support that meeting for sure.
Okay, well, it seemed like he didn't feel like he could go forward on it on his own or something.
Okay, I'll check in. Thank you so much.
Yay. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Any other subcommittee reports? No? Okay. So next is 9 matters from staff.
Actually, Madam Gish, it looks like Gina Maria, it kind of looked like you had your hand up. Ooh, I don't know.
Go ahead. You're on mute.
Interesting that Kendra caught that. I'm looking at the agenda and I'm noticing that my name is on it, I did work a lot on the planning and creation of disability nonprofit, but Kendra's name is missing on item 7E.
Okay, yeah, I'll make sure that that's on there next time.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. That's okay. And then, okay, so any other Mayor's Committee on Disability Subcommittee reports? No, okay. So next is matters from staff. Alona?
Thank you, Madam Chair. A link to the video recording of the meeting, of this meeting, will be added to the meeting minutes for the meeting.
Thank you so much. And Regina, if you have anything to say, you can.
Madam Chair, thank you so much. I think we've covered everything.
Thank you. And then matters from the committee. Are there any other things to share or any updates? No. I'm just happy that fall is coming and that this hot summer weather is going to be on its way out. It's still just a little bit hot, but it's going to get much nicer very soon. So fingers crossed. Okay, if there are no more matters from the committee, our next meeting is October 4th, 2023 from 3 to 5, hopefully on Zoom. If there's nothing else to add, we are adjourned at 4:59 p.m.
Good job, Madam Chair.
Woo, yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
Kathleen, just to let you know, I did send my question over for to be added.
Thank you. I will check that out and include that in my list. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
too.
you. Great
Bye,
meeting.
everyone.
Good job.